There's two in a row.
Doing okay.
All right.
It should be for life.
It's soon to be your time to be chair.
No, yeah, see, that's the bad right there.
Yeah, well, there's the term limit and I'm going up against it.
Okay, as far as I know.
Someone else-
You better start
Something different, I'm not sure I wanna know.
A lot of paper here.
There is.
I put enough motions in front of it that it should be.
Besides, YouTube's not running for a while, right?
Roger's new to it, he could take minutes.
Yeah, right. I haven't figured out how to do this thing,
No.
so I know.
I haven't been here in a while, so I feel like maybe it's mine.
Hey, look.
That's the spirit.
That was during short straw without drawing straws. We could have to go and ask me.
Yeah, I got your message and I left shortly after that. Just got back to that.
You were hunting?
Yeah.
Okay, you guys are hunting, Mike, you give all your hunting secrets out, Andy.
No. Not really.
Don't Andy
Here
Burke?
we go.
So,
Yeah. Get it?
I didn't get it.
You can do better than why not drive on down the 15 road, you know, the next day.
Yeah.
So we do have a quorum
Couple of turkeys.
and it's after 4:30. So if we can call the meeting to order,
Whatever.
I'd like to keep it moving along.
Yep.
Oh, JT's here. It's sort of an unorthodox table, so
Who's that? Oh, that's.
Val Tim's not here. Sorry, he said he would be, but we have a department meeting now.
Oh, you did? She was just outside a minute ago.
She came along.
Yeah, right outside. He said she saw you.
So, in the interest of moving along the meeting, the first point of order would be a harbor master's report.
Okay, and just bring those things to settle down at the dock. And everything went well on the hall, and that's Henry's last one, so, you know, there's no, if I get that right. We, started the Katie dock, and they got all the stringers down. You know, dock, decking torn up, stringers down, new decking down. There's an issue with, if you look at it, you'll see that the front of it is funky. Foundation underneath it isn't, so we're gonna have to pick up that edge. But,
At the shore side,
yes.
trippage,
Huh?
the one trippage.
No, no, then you will have to do it like on the other dock. Mostly temp, probably, but you know. Go back further, I think next year, and try to get to the other side. They gotta come back. We're gonna come today, because the rain 3 days. Main thing they got left to do is put on the brackets between the piles and the beams. We know that. They're scheduled in November to put down a cable on some island out there. Where he said, well, they had to do that because there was so many other subcontractors involved.
I think that's finished.
It is, and he was hoping to get here first of this week. And that didn't happen, first week is gone. So hopefully first next week, he doesn't think it'll take much longer to do it. What he's gonna do is all of the pipes are not where they used to be at the. They're moving, obviously. So. They will do that, they gotta go in, now that the beams have been attached and solid to each other with the new decking and the new stringer. They can get out and blow now and just, come along or something and get them where they want them, put bracket on, get them where they want them, put bracket. That won't be a quick thing, but it's, we'll take it down and then and work it. And then I think I've been working with Karen on budgeting for this, concrete work. And I think what I would like to do is wait until spring. And there's enough money in the budget to do a short piece, the 21-foot piece. And that's coming out of contingency loan that we took from the town. FEMA's gonna pay it back, so that's one section. And then the other one is 65 feet. That one will come out of town funds. And there's plenty to do there. But I took the length of what we did 85 feet the first time. That one. 85, and added in some. $24,000 in both. That's how the fund only 18. Compared to that. So that way we do both all at once. And get, everybody agrees and think that's a good idea. We'll wait till spring to do it. That's about all I got right now.
Okay,
I have minutes instead of.
oh, right, we had in our minutes.
You what?
We didn't approve the minutes yet from last week's
Oh.
meeting, or last month's meeting, rather.
Let's do that and then somebody can do it again.
Everyone have a chance to review the minutes from last month? Any changes? Motion to accept the minutes,
So moved.
all in favor, second, all in favor.
What are we?
Thank, I apologize to Bill, who created this stellar, but,
Last time we do that.
well, thank you, Scotty, I think,
David has some questions.
Yeah.
I have a number of things that I've noticed down on the dock that need attention. You've covered some of them,
Okay.
but I think you and I just need to get together sometime
Okay.
before they get started.
Is this on both docks or just Acadia?
Well,
Oh, okay, both docks.
Yeah.
Yep, I know, I'm pretty sure I know all of them.
Yeah.
You probably do. And so does Josh. He's got. Has everybody seen the new brackets on the pin files?
Yeah.
They did a good job of that.
Yeah.
And they did a great job designing it.
Good.
So that's gonna work. The only thing I wanna do is, none of the through bolts got in there. They're all lagged. So I'm gonna go around and pick a hole that I can drill through. The problem is they all line up. So you gotta somehow tip something to get that to work, or you're gonna be hitting another one. But if we can get one through bolt in each one of the center files, then that would be nice. And then we're working on the new fender file that's on the dinghy boat. And David went and looked at it, and we haven't talked about it. That one is more, can't remember the exact, I think. The other one's 11 inches out, no, they're about 6 inches out, and this one's 11 inches out from the pier, so you can wait for it.
I've got a simple fix for that.
I knew you would.
In your discussions with Karen about the budget, are we also looking at maybe the new dinghy float construction?
No,
No.
and that didn't, yeah, that's not in the. We'll get into the budget.
Yeah. And then repair of the small dinghy, the steel, socket. Or some mechanism to.
I think there ought to be rebolted with better bolting on that U-shaped thing with brackets you can bolt through and welded, so they can't go up and down. And then we're gonna put, they've never had the PVC runners on the chain, so they catch easy.
Yep.
So they're all gonna be having PVC rollers on this year.
Well, if we could add that to a spring work list, then we would have, that ready for spring. Wow. Any further comments or discussions for the harbor master?
It's this stir plates they gotta get on there, right?
Say that again?
Stir plates they gotta get on this fall, right?
No, they're gonna do it next week.
Okay.
He told me he'd be here this week and finish the cable laying late last week. He also blew out 4 fingers. So he was laid up for a while. Him and his wife and the son were splitting wood with a wood splitter,
Oh,
and his wife was a little quick on the handle. And he had his fingers between the end of the wood, and it just blew them all out.
probably has a new nickname.
So he was out of service for a while. So that's why they didn't get back before they went to lay the cable. He was hoping to get here before that, finish before the cable, but that didn't happen, obviously. But I talked to him on the day I left last week, and he's fine.
What do you say, blow up? What do you mean?
Well, the pressure just, it didn't break a bone, but it blew off the ends of 4 fingers.
Oh, it's his skin.
Blew it off. So they had to sew them all back up and, you know.
Oh.
Yeah,
That hurts just hearing him describe it.
they did get the brain fixed, you know, the brain was just on that place. Then that right hand.
Well, okay, thank you, Scotty. There's no other further old business discussion. Other than lumping in now the discussion about the RFPs as being old business now, but they're new to us for discussion.
Hey, what does RFP stand for?
Request for proposal.
Okay. You kind of guess.
So we issued one in regards.
Okay, secret.
We made a request for a proposals on feasibility study associated with a $50,000 grant.
Okay, yeah.
And so we received 4 proposals, which were distributed for your review. And we would like to come up with a recommendation from this committee to the town manager based on our discussion. That isn't the final recommendation. This is for consideration from the harbor committee. But there are other members of the selection committee or decision-making body that will also be making recommendations. So, I guess in my own personal review, I sort of ended up ranking them. Based on what I thought was of, addressing sort of the problem or condition we were interested in. And then, looking at what I vested as my own sense of what would be valuable to the town. I can provide my ranking if that's the
Sounds like
point.
a good way to start the conversation.
That is good, yes.
So I began and from first through to last, the highest ranked one I had was the GEI. This one right here.
Yep.
Then there was a view shed was the second, followed by GZA, which
Was
is,
it useless? Oh, okay.
and then last was the SWCA. And I don't know how people found this in their own response, but I felt that the major distinction between first and second were based upon the experience and how the proposal addressed some of the more infrastructure oriented components, which I think is of value to us thinking about the feasibility. I think both were on par in terms of community engagement, which was of a measure that was of interest to me. And I feel comfortable with both in terms of how the community engagement would be committed to, but I felt stronger that the GEI proposal address more of the infrastructure pieces that they're really interested in. And that's sort of the summation. The rest, GCA is very strong in the infrastructure piece. There's a good relationship with the business that's going on. However, we have had some experience with GCA, and I felt that there could be more creep.
So did GCA do the new MMA dock? Is that the one
They
you
are
heard?
engaged in building.
Okay. That's the same, okay, we heard it early on.
And I guess the last piece I would like to point out, sorry, JC, is that I felt that the GEI had some regional familiarity that stood out a little more than the view shed.
I came to the exact same conclusion, same ranking order. I thought the GEI proposal was the strongest. I liked the way that they had sort of put together a team of consultants that would engage in the community outreach and, make a good conversation of it, I think, which is important for people to get on board with and, sort of buy into the conclusions that they come to. And I thought that the sort of local aspect to the way that GEI and the federal approach was better. So that I slightly different criteria, but same result.
Oh, you gave us the presentation, right, Noel Munson?
That's right, yeah.
You have an overview?
Yeah.
You gave an overview, and I was like, he was really on top of it, it seems.
Yep.
He was on top of it, with super polished, I don't know.
Yeah, well, I looked at their proposals for broadband program and, some of the work that they had put together, and I thought that it was a good amalgamation.
I had the top two is the same that you did. And I think PEI is probably the stronger one. But I'm in favor of the view shed. And the reason being, we have a lot of technical expertise. All of us are recreational voters of one sort or another, and extensive experience. In addition, we've got a number of professionals who do things from the commercial side as well. We've got an architect and I'm an engineer. And that's the same mix of people that DEI is going to bring to it. The view shed folks are a landscape architecture, and they're relatively new and relatively small. And I like their community involvement a little more. And I like the idea that they would look at it from a perspective that we don't really have. And the GEI consultants, their main consultant is Barney Baker. I've worked with Barney a number of times. I'm in favor of trying something new.
It's an important piece of the recommendation, I think, because none of us have experience with it. You do. I could see that.
On one, I did a survey of the town up years back a few years ago.
Yeah,
And then Barney Baker was employed to do a similar type thing. He basically copied my report and
You got paid for it.
had some prettier pictures. And charged a whole lot more than I did.
came to the same conclusion.
Yes. And so the idea of having a different perspective than what we have here in the committee seemed to me like it was, we're not committing a whole lot of money to it. And it might turn out something useful.
Just a general question, is the purpose of this group to have to get money to do a major project? I thought we were like $200,000 in the works after this is presented. Are they opening a door for us or no?
I mean, they're, almost all of them have the same concept of grant writing and gathering money from different sources and grants. Well, but that's,
Okay,
I don't think
I
that's
got it.
wrong.
See it as value, a lot of the value is to be able to provide us with some metrics, and some goals that we should try to meet by a certain time that makes sense with, people that study global warming, and climate change, and sea level rise, storm surge, all those kinds of things. We have a sort of an abstract sense of all that stuff. But nothing like concrete. I feel like that's what they're, or that's what I'm looking.
I agree with that totally. I think that, whatever information they bring to the us, specific to Castine, is gonna be very useful. I really would prefer they don't spend a lot of time on resiliency because it's just not there yet. Nobody knows what it is, and for them to spend time doing that for us, I think is, my opinion is, it's just a waste of money, waste of time. Do something outside that $50,000 size.
Well, they do have to meet the spirit of the grant.
That, I was
Right.
gonna say that.
I get that, but you don't have to spend a lot of time doing it. I mean, there's not a lot to do. I mean,
Paid some lip service,
something, but don't come back with a bunch of, a whole myriad of new ideas on how to stop the water from getting over the key.
Well, I think that's sort of what these kickoff meetings are about, right? It's for us to say what we're trying to get out of this and let them know what we'd like them to focus on. So I totally agree. I think there's certain things that are gonna be valuable to us, others that not so valuable.
Well, and I would expect that no matter who is chosen, they're all going to the same database.
Yeah.
And utilizing the same baseline information that's already sort of communicating that. We're trying to get them to aggregate it for us.
Right. Yeah, and look at it in a specific context. But it sounds like all the guys are gonna do that. It doesn't, it looks like probably GEI has more experience doing it all. They've done it for several different municipalities up and down the coast, and, I think they're gonna hours into that formula, whatever they have, and they're gonna, sort of do some specific thinking about this particular condition, but
I think they have a lot more in-house equipment to, have the drones and the pilots and the divers, and it's all in-house. You're not subbing it out. These people they work with for years.
Yeah.
And that's gotta be helpful.
yeah, I think the experience is a big key.
To me, hiring GEI as the next contract makes a lot of sense, because they've got all of those capabilities. But I feel like we really want, or at least from my perspective, we want a different perspective than what we bring to it. To open our eyes maybe to possibilities that we may not think about. That's,
No, I think your point about the sort of landscape architect approach and the more of a planning kind of approach.
Yep.
And the way that might integrate with community involvement and, all that kind of thing I think that's a real advantage for sure. And I like maybe weighing that a little more.
Bill, did you have some input?
Not at this time, no. I'm looking at the relevant experience that you shared.
Well, it's certainly out there and they have plenty of professional experience.
Right. They're newer to the block, but they're, not inexperienced.
And I mean, I think it's a very valid point. And for me, the community engagement piece was articulated better with Viewshed, which is an important piece because I think we need the community to understand what we're doing and need to invest in the authenticity of it through the kickoff pieces.
Yeah.
And I felt that Viewshed could pull that out very successfully. There wasn't a concern in that at all. And I do think you're probably right that if we look at this as a progressive piece, then we are going to be looking again at another contractor to start to implement something that was more visionary.
Is there a closing date that they know when to start and when to end? Because I know that
There was a pretty defined time frame.
I think most of them assume that it's get to work December 1st, roughly to meet at end of March type of time
Delivery,
frame. So I
And I
mean,
saw that on,
Yeah.
I didn't notice it.
It was all.
I don't know if they specifically I think it's in, did you get the other piece? I think it's not my desk. They have the other envelope that had their other layout. Let me go-
I didn't grab that. No, I mean, I have copies of it here, Derek.
But I still get that, so I think that. there is a-
I would point out that you said quote is $30 cheaper than the GEI.
So that's where the reason right there.
Roger, you said you had some questions. Did you?
Yeah, well, you answered some of them already. The first question was who's doing the MMA, and that was one of the things, and now you told me, that was my opinion, I just read it, not knowing, but you guys know. I thought, the GEI Munson already had some familiarity because he came to talk to us. And the other people, it's just reading and other people's experience, so I didn't know, I thought GEA seemed very close to Doc working with them. I just struck me that they were the stronger one. To me, it wasn't division, what Dave mentioned, it was just who can do the job. Because they're gonna spend this off to somebody else, whatever ultimately physically is gonna be done, right? I mean, regardless of who you pick, or would you rather stay with the same group that already is gonna build something? You know,
But I think we're still distant from the actual, digging and tile driving, and it's, we want to get to that point, but we're still distant.
So this is more exploratory, and it's not gonna affect you, choose one today, it's not gonna affect you going to get somebody else to do the implementation. You'll have money for that, and we got another grant.
It's more grants piece, and we don't have money for the whole of the construction, but we do have another grant that is moving in application, right, Derek?
Soon as they finally contact me.
Yeah.
For the dock itself, for the extension part of it.
Yeah, well, we had, the congressional funds that are being pointed to that.
Those are approved, right?
Those are approved, and so those are, finances beyond this $50,000.
So whatever ultimate, that you're gonna be able to tap into that.
The intent is to start having a plan on the shelf that we pull off and we go, this is where we're going.
We need a plan in place to access that.
But this is what you're proposing now is not the plan stage, it's pre-plan.
It's assessment and information gathering and pulling together ideas about what a plan could be.
Okay, it's not the plan. Okay, so.
It'll be useful when we put it out to bid, and all that, what we are looking for, and where we got the information from, and
If the money's approved, can Elon Musk snatch it back?
Yeah, that's, I don't know about that, but it might affect future money first. So we'll have to find out.
Well, one of the thoughts that arose from this, all of it, was the conversation that I feel we need to have with MMA about information that they already possess. And GCA was clear that they had a conduit and means of accessing that, but I think we have a relationship with the academy that should approach the academy senior leadership and request that. And be it available to, and because we're the town, and they're a major.
Well, and I think
But that would be Derek's, we would give a directive to Derek to have that conversation with Greg.
And I think that showed up in a few of these proposals, I think it was more than one, where they expected the town to give them information about abutting property owners and, things that were.
Derek, who makes the final decision on,
Sure, the select board will end up doing it, but I'm giving this committee a lot of weight in, in the decision itself. I mean, basically, it's the board, like I told Xander, I'm giving you guys kind of a weight of 2. You and I will have a weight of 1, and then whatever the board weighs in all those decisions and ultimately comes up with it. I actually, just so you know, I kind of threw out review shit coming in there from just reading what the scope of the project a little bit that I've learned. I actually threw review shit out fairly early, only in that I thought it was a feel good, like educational thing, and they're gonna have all kinds of flyovers and demonstrations for the public to help them understand the problem and everything else. Wasn't sure what the solution part of it was. So to me, while I liked it, I said, well, that's fascinating, that's new, it's intriguing, but does it give you guys what you want or give the town what it wants? I don't know. So I heard that perspective, maybe it does, so I mean, to me, that kind of puts that back into consideration of play. I thought GEI was the thing that rose to the top to me though, when I looked at it. GZA. Also, when I looked at, when we cut down their budget, I thought they spent more time on that. On the town dock analysis study and recommendations. Both GZA and GEI had a lot of basis in there. Viewshed is using Goral Palmer for engineering, GEI is using themselves and then Musson, right? And then GZA had. GZA had, they had Haley Ward maybe,
Yeah.
yeah, and then SWCA, I had them the last two, so I don't remember what they had last time. But I was looking at their budget breakdowns on the manpower and time they were spending on studying the project and everything else. But you said, I just thought, okay, a lot of cool PowerPoints with flyovers and the, what are they gonna give us? Like I said, I don't know everybody's knowledge at the table. I know there's a lot of knowledge, a lot of ideas, so. But that's just my perspective. That you're right, but I'm like, oh, that's something new, intriguing, the way they presented their project.
So the idea that we're not looking to come out with a plan on how to do things. We're looking at ideas on what we should try to do, not how we should do it. And Viewshed certainly is not qualified to do the how. But in my mind, they may have a good approach on thinking about things that should be on the what. Yeah. So,
Did they come in and talk to us? Should they come in and make a presentation? It's good.
But I think we just push the timeline down the road, that's what we choose to do, but.
So if they do that, they're gonna charge us for it.
I think in the RFP, if I remember correctly, I said we might end up calling in somebody for an interview, whether it's through Zoom or whatever, to get like a clarification of what they can do. But yeah, it's,
Well, I think there does need to be, an understanding of how well it meets what is stipulated. If the end product does have to meet the technicality of the grant, so that we are going to be able to pay.
we want to be able to get reimbursed.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
that's why I think GI punches the boxes, so that's why I think that was. Viewpoint, it's, you shed,
Was GEI the one who had somebody come and talk to us?
Yeah.
Months ago?
yeah, and that's the subcontractor that looked like they would be responsible for the community.
It's sort of the opposite
Is it?
approach. As Viewshed is the community people that would subcontract with an engineer, and GEI is the engineer that would subcontract with a person.
Are you familiar with DEI? Have you done any work?
No. I know that's stuff that I've looked at the old surveys that Bonnie put together years ago.
I mean, I think there is, real value in the company that has done work like that, Rockland. Rockland is suffering some of the same exposure from the east as we are. We have an easterly wind coming this week.
Yeah.
That is moving east, south, north.
Great, that's true.
But I do think, we are more at that 10,000 foot view, and I think in terms of the community support that is going to need to be here and garner that, you know, support down the road, then we need this this is the point to have that.
I do think that community support aspect to it is an important one, and I think they both have it covered. I think one, it's the strong suit. Sound, I don't know, I don't know much about either of these companies, but from the proposals, it sounds like you said strong suit is that part of it. And it does seem like Munson has put together, if that's the name, has put some good stuff together on that end, who is, you know, the people that GEI would be contacting with. So it seems like it's covered in both sides. It seems like to me, GEI is a little less risky. You said it might be a little bit more of a risk because it's more of an unknown quantity. That's kind of the way I would look at it.
I concur with it.
Yeah. Maybe we can ask for some, you know, blood, but or maybe the advisor, you know, the doer necessarily.
He's had more than one unpleasant event in town, so. I think he's in a position now,
It didn't seem like it was gonna be a major. The way that they
Yeah, if you
described
look,
it.
yeah, well, actually, if you look at here, it actually tells you I don't think he's necessarily on that list.
Yeah, so that's probably a good thing in terms of what we're.
yeah, it's being
Your
here,
experience.
it's being revised.
Yeah. Right.
And I think that's really what happened last time.
Yeah,
He's
is
from-
he on the top?
You know, that gotta be,
I don't think this is the. Oh,
His Vickers is like project. He would be a reviewer. When you look at where they're going to do the budget, he's not on.
he's not even listed.
Yeah.
That's true.
So,
That's probably a good thing, Mark.
so, yeah. So, look at that. But manpower, you know,
Well, I guess my personal decision really would hinge upon how much of the grant specification requires infrastructure design, and construction and plan to meet them.
it was pretty, it's a pretty wordy thing when it came to the findings. I'll go get you want the RFP? You want me to get a copy of that for you to take a look at?
Well,
I think, which one it was, that one kind of laid out there, full understanding of the delivery.
Yes,
They don't seem to be on it.
Yeah, I think I sent out 13 different companies, so, and if you look at, this plan, there was like 18 different people, but 13 different consultants or engineering groups. If you look at what we have on these four, I believe there's 7 of those 13 that are in these one way or the other. Because some of them have got the engineering or like consultant, or they mix it one way or the other. So you really got Haley Ward, Coral Palmer, who's the other one that, Musson, then you got SWCA, you got GI, U Shed, then, GZA. So you got like this, 7, no, all 6 is one, I'm missing one.
Different combinations.
Right, but they're in there, right? So some people I had communication with or anything else, just asking for interest in that, you know, they're all feasible. I like the fact that some of them were seeking out each other to help out with it. I don't know if they've done that in the past, not, you know, I'm guessing they must have some relationship with each other though.
Yeah.
so it sounds like we have at least 2 that we're feeling.
Seems like we whittled it down to those 2.
Now,
are you gonna try to leave tonight with one?
Derek had asked for a fairly expedient process. And I would want to know if Bill wants some time to develop an opinion.
Just enjoy this conversation. Keep it moving forward.
Everyone else, I mean, I'd be quite content to come to a vote and make a recommendation. Amelia?
I'll ask a question or make a suggestion.
Sure.
If I can't, tell me to shut it, but, I come from a business where we ask for our RFPs and we actually do RFPs as a consultant and as an advertising. People always come back and say, you know, I really like the proposal, but I have a concern about this or I have a concern about that. It doesn't mean that you have to go back and redo the RFP, but how would you address, you know, wanting to make sure that we were approaching it from a fresh view? Or how would you approach it if we're concerned you don't have enough engineering? Just to see how they might react. And it could be a quick conversation, but it is typical to go back. And it shouldn't be unexpected, it shouldn't be something unexpected for you to say, hey,
To have questions about it.
I like a lot of what you said, but I have concerns about this. Just see how they react and what they might propose. They might propose a bigger partnership with engineering. They might propose a bigger partnership with community buildings. Oh, sidebar, sorry.
It's a good point. It's effective that.
So anticipated deliverables, final report should include background review, assessment of existing conditions, synopsis of risk and opportunities related to development, recommendations that address and satisfy program element requests, prioritize lists of short-term action items, timeline for long-term goals. Part 2, conceptual plans, financial feasibility analysis. Then it says C section 3 VII above, which is mitigate future impacts of climate change and rising sea levels. Consultant will put a detailed phase space redevelopment design. Once approved by the town of Castine, this design will be used to create a Castine town financial master infrastructure plan. Let's see, and then you got part 3 examples of conceptual plans for potential site redevelopment alternatives that are reproducible and in an accessible file format. Prepare financial analysis to evaluate feasibility and redevelopment alternatives and provide final study in accessible file format to be shared with the community. So those are the anticipated deliverables. Go over the elements of the waterfront site, but I base those mostly on what you gave me, that you guys came up and discussed previously, so.
And what is what is the timeline for a decision from the select board?
I'd like to get it at the next meeting on the 26th, which I'm having a special meeting on Tuesday, so that we can get whoever the company is started.
Mhm.
I do want to try to gather probably the harbor committee, because when these guys talk about providing them with past studies and reports, I don't know what all those are. So I know like there's a dock study at one time I've read or looked at, which shows the layout of the dock, so you may all know around this table, all that relevant information they're gonna want. And you just mentioned Maine Maritime might have some of that info, so I want to be able to communicate to try to get all of that information as much as possible that they want, because I don't want them wasting resources gathering information that we already have and we already studied. I want this to be building on what we've already done. And, you know, I'd hate to see this come back and go, yeah, we already did this, literally there 10 years ago, 15 years ago. You know, it made some minor improvements, but yeah, this is nothing new. This is not giving us really what we want. And I think it's important also to you all to share with the consultants and the public also what your expectations might be and what the results should be. You know, you and I have talked about, you know, your theories and everything else about, you know, how do we deal with what, you know, rising sea levels and stuff like that. You know, and there's different opinions from everybody. So I think they'll have to gather all that during the public comment process and figure out, okay, what are the goals? What do we think the goals are? In that instance.
So aside from meeting within the end of this week or into early next week, I feel we could make a recommendation.
I'm just curious if Fred or Amelia, either of you have any thoughts that you'd like to
I like the GEI better.
The G,
GEI.
GEI.
Yeah, I think I would probably agree, actually, just kind of listening to everybody. And it seems like I don't think there's a bad decision between these top two picks. I think they would both provide what we needed. And they both have that like community involvement that we're looking for. If the concern is like GEI or like water or viewshed, might have a better perspective in terms of community involvement. We could always just make sure that we go forward with our communications with GEI, keeping that in mind and just kind of emphasizing kind of the direction that we'd like to follow in terms of making sure the community is like totally on board and everybody's in agreement. And yeah, just having that little bit more experience with GEI. Not that I don't think that's a fault for the patient, but maybe this is the kind of thing where we just want to keep it like straightforward and kind of like nice and straightforward. That's kind of where I was feeling.
That experience and the way that they have sort of put these sort of almost formulaic proposals together may translate into some efficiency that would be beneficial to us. And then if, to your point about, sort of asking them to weight it more, less to the engineering and more to the, planning side of it. That just means sort of shifting a lot of what we're asking for more into months and us, I guess, that if that is possible to do, it seems like they do a really good job of that side of things. So we could.
It's our project, that's what I.
It's starting to show that, there's gonna be an opportunity for the community and us. Make sure it's clear what we want. And if there's something missing in there, paperwork and we wanna get in there, we'll just replace it.
Okay, well, is there any other further points of discussion regarding this?
It seems like our recommendation in the second could involve one company and the other company. Recommend both, say what we like about this versus that.
So I'll go for it.
Three possibilities, we've already really said that. Has progress moving?
I was gonna say, well, with the view shed thing. Let's look at that, because I've been through community engagement, that was their thing, okay? And I look at, okay, if we had a plan, or we had this preliminary analysis, and they did different short or long-term goals that competing with each other. They're the ones I would want there to say, here's your 20 dots, here's the different things, put a dot on each of the ones you like best. For us to tighten in that vision, that's who I would go with. But I think for the nuts and bolts that we want, I think GEI is the one that we want at this point. And they can do a change order, I think, or something on those community engagements, do that pivot a little bit to one side or the other, have that conversation with them.
I think it's important that whoever you decide, that they are notified with it, when they get the project, that we need within 14 days a meeting with, us and community that wants to get involved as soon as possible, so that they don't go off on tangent.
Yeah, I think that's gonna be the guiding principles are what they are gonna learn in those early meetings, of like what our expectations are.
I think that's the kickoff.
I need to take off.
As soon as possible, especially when you want all their work done by March 31st. A lot of time.
No, but it is tight.
So we should start our participation.
I'm not gonna be mad if they go over a little bit on that.
No.
So I'm trying to crunch it in case we have to do something with, some money for budget or anything else, and they may come up with, you know.
They do list that as a virtual meeting, but
It would be nice if it wasn't the first one.
as we mentioned. And say, it recommend to the select boards that we go with GEI, but we would have the town contact this company and say, well, we prefer this or that. Pick up meeting,
Well, I think just from, in summary, then we could propose a motion to recommend DEI as the vote to the select board. And depending on if that passes or fails, we could have a motion to recommend future.
Second. Is that how that works?
Oh, well, I was trying to write a motion here. Not that
I was
skilled.
gonna say, I didn't hear the whole motion.
That's part SCCONT.
Then, the harbor committee. Motion to recommend GEI as the recommendation from the harbor committee.
We recommend that they accept the GPI proposal.
What he said.
Yeah.
All in favor? Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed? Motion carries.
Now, do we want to provide any other input to the select board?
Well, I think we should. I mean, I think there are some very valid perspectives. I do think that Munson is novel to the region. But yeah, Munson, not Munson.
I think I started that mistake.
And I think
So they have just the whole town, I just have to pick up.
I think we would recommend a kickoff meeting in as soon as possible and in person.
I do too, I
Yeah.
don't, and just at least the first one, after that, if they want to do, you know, a TV show, that's fine, but I would like to see it in person.
We're checking now, but we're wondering if the kickoff meeting is the only one where the general town would be invited. And is that what we want?
Yeah, I think we need to be clearer with them first before getting the town input. It seems like what the first meeting is sort of us accepting the proposal, asking them to do what we're asking them to do. And then the next meeting would be getting town input. So
That's the easiest way for them to get started,
yeah, right.
instead of
So
getting
the
20
kickoff meeting would be virtual, but not involve the whole town, and then some secondary meeting that does. In person. You can see that, you can see. Right now, they write it.
You have to say, at least they get 1 or 2 people, it isn't like, you know,
No, and besides the engagement team, then maybe a conversation with no one else.
I can't further.
Just start to establish that and be basically our commitment to gather as much of the information that is available to us as a town to present it in the intern, so that the in-person community engagement meeting is then able to start focusing on both infrastructure and community concerns.
We could have the meeting with the committee here. It doesn't have to be at 4:30 in the afternoon, does it? Or is that the?
they're traveling, so I would think they would rather do that than late.
No, I meant like, more like 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock.
Yeah, I
That's all up to whoever,
We
I can go in.
Most days I can probably make.
Amelia and Jay have schedules.
Certainly in the
They have
month of
schedules. I don't know.
in December, it's improving. I don't have as much commitment classes ending very short.
So we're talking about a kickoff meeting, basically being with the harbor committee and maybe select board.
Yeah.
And then a meeting after that, where the whole town's invited, and that one we want to have live. The first one could be virtual. Makes sense?
And I like the idea of
Both being
meeting
live.
in person,
Okay.
because there are things you can pick up in person that you can't.
Looking for a tell.
And maybe that's Musson, doesn't he live right on the
Local.
peninsula someplace? So really, if they want to be virtual, he can be the coordination in the room or it's the room. It needs to be a like hybrid type thing. That's my thought.
He's been here and
Right.
he was impressed by everybody that was here. So,
No, and looking at their part of the proposal, the way that they put things together, the way that they communicate information, these graphics about, the sort of planning and development, I think this is exactly what we're looking for.
I just want to make sure the public has, early on, they get to give their points there and everything else, not just like people around this table or anything else, because then it's gonna be, well, this was just Brett Scott, Derek, and the Harbor Committee.
We want to be pretty
I want to
transparent
make
about
sure we get that expectation from the public into it.
So that
Because
way
we have property owners that are around us that are concerned about, how does this fit in with their properties? Whatever comes out of this, is this something they can use
Yeah.
also?
But, yeah, and MMA, I think, is probably the biggest one that needs to be involved in.
Well, would we call that meeting, it's a kickoff meeting, but would it be a working session?
I think so. I think like the first one's a working session, then the kickoff would kind of be the public type of thing.
Call it public meeting. Second one.
Yeah, that's maybe a better, politically, a sort of better way to present it. The kickoff meeting is the one that the public can be
would
at.
it make any sense to have a kickoff meeting that was in person and on Zoom, but they can't participate? And then when we do community, they'll be more
Well, that-
educated.
Well,
The working session is of that nature,
Yeah.
where
Yeah.
the public can be observing it.
And that would make them easier to understand what we're doing, and when you have a community meeting, they will have questions that are legitimate from that Zoom meeting that they can't participate in.
Yeah, you want people coming to the public meeting already primed with.
Right, not, yeah, I think that would work.
I think those two.
So then we would propose to them a meeting in early December.
Mhm.
First week or first 2 weeks of
That's a
December,
work session.
and that would be a work session with the select board present.
And at least one live member can.
Can these, Zoom meetings be recorded?
Yeah.
They are, so they can be accessed at any time. Okay, so we can make that available.
More important, can it be edited?
Only if you're.
They probably could be, it would take a long time and then I'd probably get in trouble for it.
So I don't think we would determine a date, Derek.
Yeah.
Until after the select board meeting and your recommendation moves forward with a conversation.
Yeah, and I'm gonna probably contact them tomorrow or even Friday, discuss what we've done here, maybe even encourage them to, get that, before we put it on their dime or sign on the dotted line, I'll say, you know what, it might be a lot of value to watch this harbor committee meeting, so you can hear the discussion firsthand, of what the group's expecting.
Well, I would encourage David to come up with some perspective from the view shed that you might like to see. That would be a way of trying to engage some of the elements that we're appealing.
Yeah.
And try to influence.
Some of the things we'd look at.
Yeah.
And the
And
points you're making, I think.
That's what, I two of them, and I couldn't
I'm happy
find
to
any
be a
of them.
TBI. I just, Yeah. You said just a little better. But GEI.
And Derek, I would like to encourage us to include MMA at that meeting too, and some representative that it's going to be supportive and willing to share some of the information that may be available, because we really could be requesting that.
Would Dana be able to do that?
Well, Dana certainly is on the board here on our committee, but he doesn't have the authority to share
Ah.
readily unless he's making a request and it's granted. So we can have those requests, but I think it needs to come from the town to make that request first.
Yeah. I think that makes sense.
Yes, to make it an official.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so there's some need for Derek to have that conversation with the select board and understand that there's a political will to make this request.
I think it's all sort of moving towards a cooperation between the town and to develop this waterfront in a way that it's going to be, stand up over time. There's no way for one of us to do it.
They to the select board.
And
Yeah. And, you want to mix it.
We've got to wait until the select board and the town make their choice. But in the interim, we can come up with a summary from our, input to create an input, and I would think that's what we would also give to Derek.
Derek?
Yeah.
Can I take the view shed proposal home to?
Yeah.
David, you can have my copy.
Okay. Definitely.
With the idea that we're wanting to include MMA in the process, which I think is really important. It might be worthwhile looking at including the other stakeholders along the way. And it's for.
Oh, Laura, been, yeah.
And whether or not any of those, Danny Murphy's, whatever, want to participate or not, I think an invitation to them.
I think we could make an invitation for comments in the work session.
Yes.
So. Yeah, I agree with that. So because I was somewhat confused on this thing here, so. Because I was looking at their timeline and the money that they're spending on ramp up meetings, you literally have. 42 hours of manpower for these ramp up meetings. So like the kickoff meeting of the task 1.1 talks about project will host a virtual meeting. I guess it could be live. The town staff and committee members goals of the meeting, review project goals, confirm data, review the project's community engagement, plan to ensure the proposed goals reflect those of the town, understand local nuances. Following the meeting, the project team will email staff and committee members allow for additional input. But then task 1.2, and I was confused by it, but now that I've read it through again and thought about it, it almost sounded like that was going to be an end meeting, but let me just tell you what it says. Task 1.2, community engagement presentation event. GI and the Muslim group understand the community engagement, sharing information, community members, strengthening connectivity among them and learning from them. Just as important as vulnerability assessment technical components. To that end, the project team's goal is to develop a community-informed assessment to understand the goals and objectives of the community as a whole. By hosting public engagement events, we'll create opportunities for residents of the town to provide input, share their local knowledge and personal experiences. To start, the project team will host an evening presentation to hear from a community about local climate impacts, open to all ages of the public. Presentation event will provide background information, overview of the goals and objectives of the assessment feasibility analysis, meaning in our RFP, we listed those out. Project will be held in a location that's convenient for residents. The space can comfortably fit 100 attendees. Attendees can discuss the place's importance to them, exchange experiences with one another, engage with the project team, deepen our collective understanding of what matters most to them. Through a hybrid presentation to allow for virtual participation and a recording will share the project goals, timelines, expected outcomes, will facilitate a community conversation on the impacts climate change as it relates to the project area. The initial presentation will include the causes, observed trends, best available projections, local impacts. Participants will be invited to share all observation experience with climate change sea level. The goals of this event provide an overview of the overall project timeline, goals, and expected outcomes. Facilitate a community climate conversation, build knowledge of flood risk, sea level rise, climate change. Listen, community values and high priority climate vulnerabilities through facilitated discussions or to gather input on infrastructure areas that are important to community members. Community input from this event will be integrated into task 3 elements of the waterfront study. These events will be promoted through communication strategy plan. So I think that will be where people also share those things. So I think
Sounds like they're on.
that almost they have some of that outreach, but we want to make sure by you provide whatever, some of those other ideas right up front.
Did they mention refreshments?
No.
It'll be peanuts. So I think, it sounds like that work session, we might provide, an opportunity for comment from immediate stakeholders, including abutters.
Yep, just like a planning board meeting. I love those.
And so, we have a date yet to be determined. We've made our recommendation to the select board. We typically don't have a harbor committee meeting in December around the holiday period. We will have some work sessions scheduled, but not a public meeting. That,
Yeah, seems reasonable.
so the next one would be typically scheduled for the 3rd week of January. 3rd Wednesday.
Along those lines, Scott, can you keep us all appraised of how things go down?
Do we have a bigger screen upstairs than that little one that I had in my office? It's only about this big. Not see when MMA did their presentation. They show the whole screen come down.
They show movies up there.
Okay, so there is a big giant one. I was thinking when I watched that YouTube video, but I wasn't sure.
Yeah, there's some sort of projector.
Yeah, okay.
So do we have any further business? New business?
32-foot rowboat. Has it good? You can see the planks. I mean, they go from here into the kitchen. They're that wide and they're that thick. They're like a piece of cooking weed. You tried to pick one up in the middle, it'd probably break. Somehow we're gonna make a rigid boat out of those.
What's the material?
Plywood.
Oh. Really?
It comes in 8-foot pieces and there's 5 pieces to a plank and move like that,
So the edge is not like you cut plywood, there, each piece is finished on all 4 sides?
Yes. It's a lap construction, so that adds rigidity.
Yeah.
Interesting. Gave us 12 gallons of epoxy.
And that's it for fasteners?
Pretty much, it's green plywood is pretty much it.
Wow,
Very little metal.
Any further business? Yes,
I just, it's very hard as a property owner to know what's going on with the MMA dock. Do you guys have any sort of schedule when you get updates?
so the town has monthly town and gown meetings,
Okay.
but there is a project manager that is the direct liaison for anyone who has interest or questions for me.
Okay. Okay,
And they do manage a communication, or I haven't seen it honestly, but there's supposed to be a website where you can submit, comment, and request conversation.
okay,
Perhaps Derek has Jake's phone number.
I do have this number.
That is the,
okay. And I didn't know the town and gown, they were gonna talk about it, so.
and that is coming up this
early
week.
December.
No, December
Oh,
5th. I'm not gonna be there though, but
okay.
they will be. It's here this time. Yeah,
Okay, thank you.
so it'll be 9 AM on Friday, December 5th. If that's the right date. December 5th, it's gotta be, no, 6. Friday, December 6th. So.
And so those are the primary meetings. Yeah. And Jake is very responsive,
Okay,
um,
perfect.
and is living in town and there daily. So, if you wanted to make arrangements to meet with him while you're in the area, or if you want to call him, I
Okay,
think he'd be very responsive.
thank you.
We're gonna set riding piles in about 2 weeks.
I think they have to get a new barge up here, bigger barge and a bigger
Yeah,
crane.
I think they said that.
It's coming. I
Yeah,
don't think
oh,
it's
yeah.
here yet.
No, right.
I'll give you number two.
Are they on schedule? Project or are they behind?
I don't know, honestly.
Yeah, they're way behind from when they said they would start.
Yeah.
For a lot of different reasons, so yeah, the whole thing is behind schedule.
The good news is the ship's behind too.
Yeah.
Can we have a motion to adjourn?
So.
If you want
All in
to
favor?
spend a few minutes, go through what I.
Thank you, everybody.
See you later.
Yeah.
Yes.
On the
Run around and do what you gotta do.
east side of the sound dock. That a place on it.
Yep.
It's not right there.
Yeah,
There is the side closest to the sea. It's pretty much flat. And
Access.
it's been worn flat. It looks like. It's been abused.
hold on, I'm gonna sit that down right.
It's doesn't take anywhere near the load that the pilings, the better pilings out front.